The Chicago autumn wind whispered its arrival as Eleanor Vance sat in her living room, her gaze fixed on the small plastic stick in her hand. Two distinct crimson lines starkly declared their presence. This was it, her first pregnancy, a dream she and her husband, Arthur, had nurtured for 3 years, now blossoming into reality. "Arthur," she whispered, her voice barely a breath. Her excitement could no longer be contained. Arthur emerged from his study, a furrow in his brow. "Eleanor, what is it?" "Look," she managed, handing him the test. His usually calm, analytical gaze widened in disbelief, and in the next moment he swept her into a fierce embrace. A stunned whisper escaped him. "Is this truly happening?" Arthur, a meticulous research scientist at Apex Pharmaceuticals, was a man who lived by empirical data and rigorous verification. But in this singular, astonishing moment, all scientific skepticism vanished, replaced by an overwhelming, incandescent joy. "We'll need the obstetrician's confirmation, of course." Her voice, usually so steady, now danced with a buoyant hope, "but I just know." That night, the two shared a quiet, heartfelt celebration. Eleanor raised a glass of sparkling non-alcoholic cider, while Arthur, with a rare indulgence, uncorked a vintage Cabernet. The dining table, usually reserved for Arthur's research papers, was already awash with baby product catalogs, their pages dog-eared and marked. "My darling, you mustn't exert yourself in the slightest," Arthur declared, holding her hand. "Your work at the accounting firm can transition to home-based. Your health and our babies are paramount." Eleanor's heart swelled with gratitude at Arthur's tender solicitude. Arthur had always been attentive, but since the news, he had transformed into a paragon of devotion. He even shed uncharacteristic tears of profound gratitude to Dr. Eris Thorne when the pregnancy was officially confirmed a week later. "The new drug development project at the lab is entering a critical, all-consuming phase, so I fear I won't be able to accompany you to every checkup, my love," Arthur said apologetically. "But know this, you and our child are my absolute priority." Eleanor, understanding the immense pressure of his work, nodded gently. Each evening, upon his return, a new ritual began. Arthur would gently place his hand on Eleanor's burgeoning belly and converse with their unborn child. "How was your day, little one?" Arthur would speak to the child in the womb every night. "Daddy eagerly awaits the moment I can hold you." Witnessing this tender interaction, Eleanor would feel a profound certainty that she had married the right man. Arthur, though possessing the sharp, logical mind of a scientist, also harbored a deep well of affection for his family. The weeks following the confirmation transformed their home into a hub of joyous preparation for the nursery. Eleanor, now working from home, dedicated her days to meticulously planning the room's layout and curating an array of baby essentials. Arthur, despite his demanding schedule, invariably stopped at baby boutiques after work, returning with some new, thoughtful acquisition. "What do you think of this, my love?" One evening, he presented a charming mobile. "The salesperson assured me these pastel hues are perfectly gender-neutral," he explained. "It's exquisite," Eleanor smiled, her heart aching with tenderness. "This child will be so cherished, so utterly loved." Weekend strolls through the neighborhood park became a cherished ritual. Spotting families pushing strollers, their gazes would meet, sharing a silent, knowing smile. These quiet, shared moments felt more precious than any grand gesture. "This time next year," Arthur murmured, his arm gently encircling her shoulders, "we'll be walking here with our own little one." "You'll be an extraordinary father," Eleanor affirmed, her belief absolute. His unwavering kindness and profound sense of responsibility filled her with serene confidence for their shared future. The initial weeks post-confirmation were a torment of severe morning sickness for Eleanor. She awoke each day consumed by nausea, often unable to stomach food for days. Witnessing her struggle, Arthur promptly assumed full responsibility for the kitchen. "I'll approach this like a complex research experiment," Arthur quipped, already poring over several pregnancy nutrition books. "I'll precisely calculate the essential nutrients for pregnancy and devise the optimal meals for both you and our baby." And indeed, Arthur's culinary creations were meticulously balanced, a testament to his scientific precision. He fastidiously measured folic acid, iron, calcium, and protein, experimenting with subtle seasonings to ensure maximum palatability for Eleanor's delicate palate. One gentle menu followed another. Soothing ginger broths, bland crackers, and banana yogurt smoothies, all designed to comfort her morning sickness-ravaged stomach. "I've charted your weight progression and the baby's growth stages," Arthur announced, presenting a detailed hand-drawn graph. "At this rate, your weight gain will be perfectly aligned with medical recommendations." Eleanor was profoundly grateful for his unwavering meticulousness. Left to her own devices, she might have succumbed to the relentless nausea and neglected proper nutrition. Arthur's scientific rigor and devotion saw her through the most challenging phase of her pregnancy. By the 4th month of pregnancy, the relentless morning sickness began its merciful retreat. With Eleanor's appetite rekindled, Arthur's culinary fervor intensified. Weekend excursions to the grocery store became a shared adventure as they carefully selected foods known to promote fetal development. "Organic produce may be dear," Arthur stated, "but nothing is too good for you and our child." He selected premium ingredients without a moment's hesitation. "Given the potential effects of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, I insist on the safest options, regardless of cost." It was also around this period that Arthur began procuring an array of costly dietary supplements. He meticulously sourced supplements covering every recommended pregnancy nutrient, prenatal vitamins, DHA, and probiotics. "This is the latest, highly promising product recommended by a colleague at the lab," Arthur explained, holding up a bottle. "It contains compounds developed by a leading Japanese pharmaceutical company specifically designed to support fetal brain and nervous system development." Eleanor was profoundly moved by his exhaustive care. Each morning, as she consumed the meticulously prepared supplements, a deep contentment settled within her, affirming her joy in marrying Arthur. With the advent of the 2nd trimester, Eleanor's condition stabilized. Her belly's gentle swell became undeniable, and she began to feel the first fluttering movements of their baby. Arthur eagerly anticipated his nightly ritual of placing his hand on her abdomen, seeking confirmation of their child's lively presence. "You're quite the energetic one today," Arthur would murmur, his voice laced with profound tenderness. "Daddy is so impatient to meet you, and I'm crafting the most beautiful room imaginable just for you." The nursery's preparation advanced with relentless precision. Arthur, a true perfectionist, introduced a succession of state-of-the-art equipment, each chosen with their baby's health as the singular objective. From advanced air purification systems and precise climate control to wallpaper crafted from entirely natural, non-toxic materials, no detail was overlooked. "I want to ensure the absolute finest environment for our child," Arthur stated, his expression grave. "Not just an abundance of love, but a physically perfect sanctuary, too." Beyond the 6th month, routine checkups intensified in frequency. However, Arthur's work commitments escalated dramatically, limiting his presence at her appointments. The drug development project had truly entered its most critical, all-consuming phase. "I am truly, profoundly sorry," Arthur would repeat, his apologies tinged with weariness. "But the success of this project will secure my standing at the company, ensuring a stable future for you and our baby." Eleanor, ever understanding, accepted his explanations. She believed he was striving tirelessly for their family's future. The checkup results remained consistently reassuring, their baby thriving. Though attending appointments alone brought a pang of loneliness, the thought of Arthur's dedication lent her strength. As the 3rd trimester unfolded, Arthur's work hours stretched even longer. He often returned home nearing midnight, yet never once neglected his nightly ritual of placing his hand on Eleanor's belly and speaking to their child. "Daddy worked so hard for you today, little one." His voice, though etched with fatigue, resonated with boundless love. "We'll meet soon. Daddy is truly counting the days." On weekends, however, he would transform, tending to Eleanor's every need without a hint of his weekday exhaustion. Massages, leisurely walks, and all essential errands were handled with a heightened attentiveness that surpassed even his pre-pregnancy devotion. "You're doing more than enough, my love," Arthur would murmur gently. "Let me handle everything. Please, don't hesitate to ask for anything at all." With the 9th month of pregnancy arrived, birth preparations entered their ultimate phase. Arthur, with characteristic researchers' thoroughness, had meticulously compiled hospital contact lists, packed a comprehensive bag for her stay, and even drafted emergency response manuals. Yet his professional commitments, inexplicably, only intensified. He regretfully informed her that an unavoidable, critical meeting would prevent him from accompanying her to tomorrow's final regular checkup. "I am profoundly sorry," he vowed, clutching her hand. "But after this, things will ease. I promise I will absolutely be by your side for the birth." Eleanor nodded, a faint unease stirring within her. Now at full term, labor could commence at any moment. The final checkup day, nearing her due date, dawned on a crisp November morning. Eleanor drove to the hospital alone. Arthur had been engrossed in preparations for his pivotal meeting until the late hours and had left for work before sunrise. Another appointment, alone. A familiar pang of loneliness resonated within Eleanor as she drove. Throughout her pregnancy, Arthur had only managed to attend the initial few appointments. While she rationalized the importance of his work, with birth imminent, her longing for his presence intensified into a quiet ache. The bustling waiting room, a kaleidoscope of expectant mothers, was as vibrant as ever. Eleanor checked in, then found a seat, her gaze drifting across the many women accompanied by their attentive partners. Next to her, a young couple cooed over ultrasound photos. "Next time, we might finally learn the gender," the husband whispered, his arm protectively around his wife. "I can't wait," she beamed. Eleanor's hand instinctively rested on her own prominent belly, now heavy with life. The baby within stirred, a reassuring flurry of strong movements. Her child was thriving. That, she knew, should be enough to quell the rising tide of loneliness. "Eleanor Vance," a nurse called, her voice cutting through the waiting room's murmur. Inside the examination room, Dr. Eris Thorne, her long-standing obstetrician, greeted her with his customary warm smile. A man in his late 50s, Dr. Thorne possessed over 2 decades of invaluable experience at the hospital, his reputation for calm competence preceding him. "How are you feeling today, Eleanor?" Dr. Thorne inquired, perusing her chart. "Very well, thank you, doctor. The baby's movements are so lively they sometimes wake me at night," she chuckled. "An excellent sign of health," he affirmed. "Now, let's proceed with our usual ultrasound." Eleanor lay back on the examination table, lifting her shirt to expose her rounded abdomen. Dr. Thorne, with practiced hands, applied the cool gel and moved the ultrasound probe across her skin. The familiar monochrome image of her baby appeared on the monitor. "Growing beautifully," the doctor initially stated, his voice calm and reassuring. "You're 2 weeks from your due date, but little one could decide to arrive at any moment." Eleanor felt a wave of relief. This, she thought, would be another routine, positive checkup. Yet, as Dr. Thorne adjusted the probe for a more detailed scan, she observed a subtle but unsettling shift in his demeanor. "Let me just reposition the probe for another view," Dr. Thorne murmured, a thread of tension now detectable in his voice. He meticulously adjusted the probe, observing the fetus from multiple angles, his gaze fixed on the screen. He paused to key in measurements, his concentrated intensity beginning to prickle Eleanor with a nascent anxiety. Is something wrong, doctor?" Eleanor asked, her voice barely a whisper. "Please, just a moment," Dr. Thorne replied, his voice strained. "I need to review your latest blood test results as well, just to be thorough." Eleanor's heart began to hammer against her ribs. Never had an examination taken so long, nor had she ever witnessed such a flicker of unease from the unflappable Dr. Thorne. She saw his hands, usually so steady, tremble almost imperceptibly as he scrolled through her digital chart. Why was a veteran physician, with decades of experience, so visibly unsettled? Her anxiety sharpened into a cold dread. "Doctor, please, what is it?" Eleanor choked out, her voice barely audible. Dr. Thorne slowly turned to face her. His complexion was ashen, and his hands, she now saw clearly, were shaking with undisguised tremor. "Eleanor," Dr. Thorne's voice was a low, grave rumble, "you must leave this hospital immediately. And then you must file for divorce." "What?" Eleanor's mind reeled, convinced she had misheard. "What are you saying?" "Divorce." "Why?" Her voice was a fragile, trembling thing. "There's no time for explanations here," Dr. Thorne declared, rising swiftly and pulling a section of her printed chart. "This will clarify everything." What the doctor pressed into her hand was a detailed analysis of recent blood tests. A list of complex chemical compounds meant nothing to Eleanor, but the stark, bold phrases "abnormal values" and "high concentration detected" screamed at her from the page. "What are these results?" she whispered. "These are drugs." Dr. Thorne's voice was a tight mixture of anger and sorrow, substances that should never be in your system, and at alarming concentrations, indicating prolonged, continuous ingestion. Eleanor's mind went utterly blank. Drugs. She had taken nothing but her prenatal vitamins and prescribed medications. "Look at the ultrasound image again," Dr. Thorne urged, pointing to the monitor. "See those faint shadows encircling the fetus? They absolutely should not be there." Eleanor stared, horrified. Thin, wispy, shadow-like forms indeed surrounded her baby on the screen. She didn't comprehend their meaning, but the doctor's grave face spoke volumes. This was terribly wrong. "These compounds," Dr. Thorne continued, his voice still trembling, "are known to interfere with pregnancy and can cause severe developmental issues for the fetus. Fortunately, it appears your baby is, for now, not in immediate danger." But I haven't taken any such drugs," Eleanor vehemently denied, panic rising. "That's precisely the issue," Dr. Thorne countered, his eyes now blazing with controlled fury. "These are drugs only accessible to medical professionals. Furthermore, this appears to be a deliberate, calculated administration by someone with a clear understanding of their effects on a pregnant woman." Eleanor's blood ran cold. Medical professionals. Arthur was a pharmaceutical researcher. "What is your husband's profession?" the doctor asked, his expression stern. "He's the researcher at Apex Pharmaceuticals," Eleanor whispered, her voice hoarse. "I see." Dr. Thorne nodded grimly. "Eleanor, your life and your baby's life are in grave danger. You must leave here immediately. Go to a safe place. And you must contact the police." Eleanor gathered her belongings, her hands trembling violently. The horrific reality she had fought to deny was slowly, agonizingly, settling upon her. Her beloved husband. He was trying to harm her and their baby. Insidiously, gradually, under a perfidious mask of love. "Doctor, will the baby be all right?" she finally managed. "If the administration of these drugs ceases immediately, the effects on the baby can be minimized," Dr. Thorne assured her. "But getting to a safe environment swiftly is paramount." Eleanor stumbled out of the examination room. As she walked, or rather floated, down the long hospital hallway, a torrent of memories assailed her. Arthur's costly supplements, the meticulously calculated meals, his consistent absence from her checkups. Every seemingly thoughtful gesture now twisted into a chilling, coherent narrative. Everything clicked into place with sickening clarity. In the hospital parking lot, Eleanor sat in her car, a dazed automaton. Then, a fierce resolve ignited within her. She would not return home. To protect her unborn child, she would go straight to her parents' house. With trembling hands gripping the steering wheel, Eleanor steered towards her childhood home. An hour blurred past, her mind a maelstrom of confusion. How could the man she trusted, her husband, have been slowly poisoning her? Arriving at her parents' home in suburban Chicago, her mother, Martha, met her at the door. One look at Eleanor's ashen face, and Martha knew instantly that something was terribly amiss. "Eleanor, darling, what is it? You look dreadful." "Mom," Eleanor choked out, collapsing into her mother's arms. "Please help me." Her father, George, a former police officer, rushed in from the living room. His trained eye immediately registered the gravity of his daughter's distress. "What happened, sweetheart?" George asked, his voice calm despite the simmering fury in his eyes. Eleanor recounted the harrowing events at the hospital. Dr. Thorne's grim diagnosis, the terrifying blood test results, the abnormal shadows on the ultrasound, and the chilling implication of Arthur's profession. Martha and George listened to their daughter's unbelievable tale in stunned silence. "I just can't believe it," Martha whispered, hand clamped over her mouth. "He seemed such a gentle young man." "That gentleness was a facade," George said, his expression grim. "Eleanor, you'll stay here tonight. First thing tomorrow, I'm calling in a private detective. The following morning, George contacted Michael Vance, a seasoned private investigator and former FBI agent he'd known for decades. Vance was renowned for his expertise, from infidelity cases to corporate malfeasance. "Mike, this is an emergency," George stated grimly over the phone. "My daughter's life is in danger." Michael immediately initiated his investigation, meticulously scrutinizing Arthur's habits and background. Workplace interviews, neighbor inquiries, and a deep dive into his personal history quickly yielded disturbing results. 3 days later, Michael delivered a shocking report. "George," his voice was heavy, "you need to brace yourself. Arthur has been maintaining a mistress for the past 2 years. And," Michael paused, "that woman is also pregnant." Eleanor, listening in her parents' living room, felt another layer of her reality shatter. "Her name is Serena Lockhart," Michael continued, producing photographs. "Also in the medical field, like Arthur. She's 5 months along." 5 months? That meant Serena had conceived when Eleanor was already 4 months pregnant. "Why?" Eleanor rasped, her voice raw. "Why would he do this?" Michael opened his investigation file. Further digging unearthed an even more horrifying truth. Arthur was intentionally administering a cocktail of specific drugs to Eleanor. "Fertility drugs," Martha gasped. "More precisely," Michael clarified, "drugs designed to suppress ovulation and, critically, make it difficult to sustain a pregnancy. These included experimental compounds from Apex Pharmaceuticals itself." Michael's explanation continued, chilling them to the bone. His grotesque plan was to induce a pregnancy failure, then leverage the emotional devastation to force a divorce. George clenched his fists, his knuckles white. "And he intended to keep only the mistress's child." "Exactly," Michael confirmed. According to files recovered from Arthur's personal computer, he had meticulously drafted a timeline. He laid out printed documents: miscarriage for wife, followed by divorce due to emotional shock, then remarriage to mistress. Eleanor revisited her blood test results, the detailed data from Dr. Thorne now terrifyingly lucid. Multiple chemical substances detected at alarming concentrations. "These compounds," Michael explained, breaking down the technical jargon, "are designed to inhibit fetal development and, in the worst-case scenario, induce a miscarriage." However, Michael continued, Arthur made a critical miscalculation. "Eleanor, your physiology exhibited an unexpected, robust resistance to the drugs. Normally, a miscarriage would have occurred in early pregnancy, but your baby miraculously endured." This perfectly aligned with Dr. Thorne's explanation. The shadows on the ultrasound image were indeed abnormalities in the amniotic fluid, a direct consequence of the drug's effects. "There's ample evidence," George stated, rising decisively. "I'm calling the police." The following day, Eleanor, accompanied by her father, presented their case at the police station. The dossier included her blood test results, Arthur's chilling timeline discovered on his computer, and compelling photographic and communication evidence of his affair with Serena. Detective Sergeant Miller, the investigating officer, meticulously reviewed the mountain of evidence and immediately moved to secure an arrest warrant. Assault, egregious violations of pharmaceutical law, and quite possibly attempted murder, Detective Sergeant Miller explained, his expression grim. "This is a clear case of premeditated criminal intent." That evening, Arthur Sterling was arrested at Apex Pharmaceuticals. The subsequent day, the local newspaper carried a sensational headline: "Pharmaceutical researcher arrested for poisoning pregnant wife with experimental drugs," alongside a prominent photo of Arthur in handcuffs. The story sent shockwaves through Chicago's entire medical and scientific community. Apex Pharmaceuticals immediately terminated Arthur's employment and suspended all related research projects. The company's reputation was irrevocably tainted, and its stock prices plummeted. Meanwhile, as the scandal erupted, Serena Lockhart vehemently denied any culpability, tearfully claiming she had been deceived. "He told me he was already divorced," Serena sobbed to investigators. "I had no idea he was capable of such depravity." However, further investigation uncovered messages proving Serena was fully aware of at least part of Arthur's sinister scheme. Exchanges included phrases like, "I'll be free of her soon, and you and our child are my only true family." Arthur was subjected to relentless interrogation. Initially, He maintained his denial, but confronted with irrefutable evidence, he finally confessed. "I fell in love," Arthur mumbled had bowed. "I wanted a new life with Serena, but a divorce would have cost me a fortune in the property settlement." "So you tried to murder your wife?" the investigator pressed, his voice chillingly devoid of emotion. "I didn't intend to kill her," Arthur insisted. "I just believed if she miscarried naturally, the emotional shock would make her agree to a quick divorce." However, the sheer volume and potency of the drugs administered made it undeniably clear that Eleanor's life, too, had been in mortal peril. Expert analysis confirmed a high probability that continued exposure would have caused severe, irreversible harm to the mother. The sensational case garnered national attention, and Arthur Sterling became infamously known as the poisoning researcher. He was permanently barred from the medical industry, his career utterly destroyed. Eleanor, seeking solace and safety, opted to spend the remainder of her pregnancy at her parents' home. Gradually, the insidious drug effects receded from her body, and her baby continued to flourish, strong and resilient. Freed from the suffocating grip of fear and despair, she could finally prepare for childbirth with a fragile but genuine peace of mind. 3 months later, Eleanor safely delivered a healthy baby girl. Their daughter, Clara, weighing a robust 3,200 grams, was born vibrant and utterly unaffected by the drugs. "It's a miracle," Dr. Thorne whispered, tears glistening in his eyes as he attended the birth. "This child is truly remarkable," the doctor murmured gently, cradling Clara. Protected by her mother's love, she overcame everything. As Eleanor held her daughter close, the crushing fears of the past seemed to recede, distant and unreal. The delicate grip of tiny hands on her finger was the irrefutable proof of the most precious life imaginable. 6 months later, Eleanor returned to her accounting career. With her parents' steadfast support, she rented a modest apartment near their home, embarking on a new life as a single mother. A comforting routine emerged. Martha cared for Clara in the mornings, and Eleanor picked her up each evening. "This child is such a joy," Martha often mused, bouncing her granddaughter on her knee. "She looks just like you did as a baby, Eleanor." Balancing work and motherhood was an arduous dance, yet Eleanor found profound fulfillment. Exhaustion from midnight feedings was quickly erased by Clara's radiant smile, making every hardship worthwhile. Meanwhile, Arthur's life lay in complete ruin. Convicted of assault and multiple pharmaceutical law violations, he received a 5-year prison sentence, which he was currently serving in state prison. Fired immediately from Apex Pharmaceuticals, he was permanently blacklisted from the medical industry, his once promising career and reputation utterly annihilated. All his experience was rendered moot. He would never conduct research again. His former mistress, Serena Lockhart, abandoned him instantly once the case came to light. She swiftly moved on, found a new partner, and put the child she'd conceived with Arthur up for adoption. Isolated and unvisited, Arthur was left to face his fate entirely alone. He got what he deserved, George reported to his daughter one day. He's learning firsthand the true weight of his monstrous crimes. Eleanor rarely dwelled on Arthur anymore. Occasionally, a flicker of bewilderment would cross her mind, wondering how she had ever loved such a man, but her focus remained firmly on her vibrant future with Clara. As Clara approached her first birthday, Eleanor received a heartfelt invitation from Dr. Eris Thorne. The doctor invited mother and daughter to a small, intimate gathering at his home. "You two are truly special to me," Dr. Thorne conveyed. "I'd be honored to watch this precious child grow." Touched by the doctor's enduring kindness, Eleanor mused on the profound mysteries of life. The beacon of hope that had appeared in her darkest hour had now become a cherished member of her extended family. One sunny afternoon, playing with Clara in the park, Eleanor reflected on the tumultuous events of a year prior. Had it not been for that dreadful checkup day, she and her daughter might not be here now. Dr. Thorne's courageous, unwavering decision had unequivocally saved 2 lives. "True family," Eleanor murmured, watching her daughter, "isn't merely defined by blood." Clara laughed, an innocent, pure sound, clutching flower petals in her tiny hands. As the setting sun bathed the park in a warm, golden glow, Eleanor's heart swelled with profound gratitude. Gratitude for the sanctity of life, for the fierce imperative to nurture and protect it, for the understanding that true love means genuinely wishing for another's happiness, and for the undeniable truth that even in the bleakest of circumstances, unwavering resolve can carve a path to hope. The day Clara first uttered "Mama," tears streamed down Eleanor's face, a torrent of pure, unadulterated joy. This small, precious being was the greatest treasure of her life. She was convinced that every agonizing experience, every moment of betrayal and despair, had ultimately led her to this incandescent, happy moment.